So I've got a little bit of a weird situation, and I think that this is going to be a great time to have a discussion with you, my dear viewer, about what happened, how did I handle it, and have you ever been in that situation? Let's talk about it. Before we get into this, though, go ahead and leave a comment down below. If you're a contractor, have you ever had a customer have the claim that you caused something to break that you did never touch, nor were you ever near? Leave that comment below. Let's talk about it. All right, so this story is super easy. We were hired to install a riser on a septic system. Now, a manhole riser is a large 24-inch round circle that you put in the middle of the tank. Modern systems, it'll be in the front of the tank, sometimes the back of the tank. It's just going to be a big access point on the system somewhere. Typically on systems before 2014-ish in Maryland, it's usually going to be in the middle because most of our tanks are going to have a little 6-inch clean out on the front, and then there's going to be a 12 by 12 little plug on the back. So with these older systems, we typically recommend to homeowners to consider installing a manhole riser. With a tank, you have to think about what is it supposed to do. It's supposed to clarify liquid. Now, tanks are typically 8 foot by 4 foot or 10 foot by 5 foot. They're a big rectangle. So what happens is, as you flush your toilet, all of the stuff plus the water is going to go to the tank. The bottom layer is going to be sludge, the middle layer will be effluent, and the top layer will be scum. That's the separations that you get. An easy way, as we've talked hundreds of times on this channel, take a cup of water, some baker's yeast, mix it together. You'll see most of that yeast falls to the bottom, a light tan in the middle, and a white foamy stuff up top. Same concept in a septic tank. Sludge is just a combination of all your toilet paper, your human waste, and all the extra heavy stuff that works its way into the tank. Scum is the floating stuff, so like your greases, feminine products, any piece of toilet paper that hasn't quite congealed yet enough to fall down. Effluent is a fancy way of saying poo water. It's nasty, nasty water. It's all of the liquids that come from your toilets, showers, and drains to the septic tank. So the purpose of the tank is to clarify everything. Now, the problem with this happening is the tank is going to fill up with solids. So over time, you as a homeowner are going to produce more solids than the tank can get rid of. This is why I disagree with old timers who say, I've had my septic system for 40 years and I've never had to pump it. It's working perfectly fine. A functional septic system, you don't have to pump out. They're wrong. This has been studied so many times, and the guidance from University of Maryland and from the state of Maryland is to pump every 3 to 5 years. This is not a money racket. This is not people trying to get extra money out of you. The purpose of pumping it is to get the solids out of the system, because what causes your drain field to fail is a little bit of that debris over the course of a couple decades getting into your drain fields is going to cause it to plug up. The biomat is the term we use for it. It's biologic material. A drain field is just a trench. Now they're usually 2 to 3 feet wide, 5 to 10 feet deep, and between 40 and 100 foot long. They're going to backfill it with stone and a perforated pipe. So you put your pipe in the ground, the stone is there to open up the soil, and as you put water through, the water is going to work its way into the soil will clean it up, and then off into nature, that water wanders. So this brings us back to what we were hired to do. Now, when you have a clean out, that's usually going to be on the front of the tank. A pumper's pipe is semi-rigid, but it's not going to be able to get to the back of the tank. There are some guys who just toss the pipe in, some guys who will have a PVC attachment to it. There's a variety of ways that some guys will do this. But the thing that you have to know is if you have your clean out in the front of the tank, there is no good way to get the solids in the back of the tank unless you're opening the lid in the middle or the back of the tank. The reason why is the lid on the front and the back of the tank, especially for older systems, are not that large. Typically they're 6 inches, or you might get lucky and have a 12 by 12 paver size plug. The one in the middle is usually between 20 and 24 inches round. Sometimes you get some square ones. Those ones suck. Not a big fan of that. But if you open it up through the middle, now you're able to hit all 4 corners of that tank more effectively. What this means for you as the homeowner is if the pumper is more able to effectively pump your system, you will get a longer lifespan out of your absorption system. So how we put access on the center is you put a riser on. Manhole risers are a few $100 to a few $1,000 depending on the depth of your system. Every system is going to be a little bit different. Your contractor in your state might also be different. They might be higher, they might be lower. But in this particular circumstance, it wasn't anything crazy. So we were hired to put in this riser. We put in the riser, everything goes smooth. It's not a complicated task. You just dig up the lid, stick it on, and fill it back in, right? No big deal. So we get a phone call a couple days later. And the phone call is, hey, you all did some work. Now my garbage disposal ain't working. What'd you do? Now, I could have freaked out and said, no, we didn't do anything. Pound sand, get out of here. And I may have been in my right to do that. But I said, well, listen, all we did was put access on your septic system. We didn't go in the house, didn't do anything with the internal plumbing, nothing with the electrical. There should be no issues with your sewer, no issues with your garbage disposal. But let's talk about how do you fix it. So what I did is I wrote them some options on how to get that garbage disposal to work. I told them how to reset it, how to put the Allen key in it, maybe something was stuck in there. Give them some options on how to fix it themselves, so that way they can say, oh, okay, because, sometimes garbage disposals, they act a little silly, and sometimes you got to hit the little reset button to get it to actually start playing nice again. But what I could have done is I could have argued with them. I could have fought with them. There could have been a back and forth where I get defensive. And then now not only do they have a problem with their garbage disposal, now they're angry at me because of the way that I handled a problem. And this is one of those things I learned a long time ago. When somebody calls in to complain, obviously your first thought may be defensive, especially if they're commenting on your work and your work ethic. But what you need to do is you need to listen to what they're saying. Apologize, not for your actions, but for the circumstance. So I said, listen, I'm sorry to hear that this thing's not working. I understand the problem is the garbage disposal, not the work that we did. So we're trying to figure out how do we get this to function the right way. The next option is we try to solve whatever they've got going on. So we listen to what they're saying. We're hearing it. We're not just trying to formulate our response. We're listening actively to what they're telling us. We give them an apology, not for what we've done, but for the situation. And then we're going to try and solve the issue. So in this circumstance, I gave them two different options on how to fix the garbage disposal. Because again, I know garbage disposals are finicky, so usually one of those two options will get it working. Sometimes you have to replace the garbage disposal, but most of the time just pressing the button or using an Allen key to back out whatever's stuck out of the way will solve the problem. Finally, the last thing we want to do is thank them for bringing this to our attention. They could have sat there, stewed on this, and gotten very angry about it, and not have told us. And if they decided to not tell us this problem, they could have told all of their friends, their neighbors, coworkers, not to use our service. So then what I want to do is I want to thank them for bringing it to my attention to give me the opportunity to try and help them to solve the issue and make things right. A lot of times, a lot of complaints you're going to get are not you. They're not related to whatever you've done. Maybe you're the bearer of bad news. Maybe you just happen to be the wrong guy in the wrong spot. Maybe you just happen to be the person who you just walked into somebody who's just having a bad day. It does happen. So not all issues are going to be your problem. But as a professional, you have to make sure that you treat people correctly. Because if you do that, they will come back again and again and again and again. So this brings us to the end. I was able to have a happy customer, a very happy person, but we had an issue. But the issue wasn't related to us, but I still gave them options and attempted to try and fix it, and it worked. Leave a comment below. What would you do in that situation? Would you have tried to solve the issue? Would you have just ignored them? Would you have told them, hey, listen, what we did didn't cause any problems. Good luck, have fun. What would you have done? Let's have a conversation down below. Maybe you think my method was not the right way of doing it. Maybe you do. Anywho, this was supposed to be a quick one with a little fun little issue that we ran into because issues happen in business, and I think it's a good thing to talk about them and how people deal with it. I have videos posted every day on the World of Well and Septic, as you all are very well aware. If you enjoy this style of content, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and until next time.